Before we get started with the show, here's a quick word from our sponsor, Global Training Center. As trade compliance professionals, you want to make sure that your procedures and documentation are completed as correctly as possible to avoid any delays and possible fines. We provide a range of trade compliance courses that will fit your needs. From in-person or web training to recorded on-demand courses, we can train one or even thousands on your team through your learning platform or on our portal. We can even customize a private session for your team. Go to globaltrainingcenter.com to find out more.
All right, folks, we are going to have another great show for Simply Trade Podcast, and it is going to be a good discussion today. I'm looking forward to this, Lalo, but before that, you and I have not had the chance to really be back on together for a while, or we've been going different directions or different things. There has been more things happening, and I'm telling you, there's been a lot of folks that have been going crazy, crazier than a squirrel in a nut packing factory. So they're just all over the place. I will tell you, it is just some exciting times right now. Good, bad, whether you agree with it or not, it is just never a dull moment, is there?
No, I know it's crazy. And I've been reading and even seeing or listening to other they may not call them podcasts, but like webinars or whatever, and just been following a lot of what's going on. And you're right. It's one of those times. It's just like the first time when Trump was in office. It kept the trade people busy, although not as busy as this time around. I think this time around is a lot more frantic, but it's fine. And the way we look at it here at Global Training Center is it's job security for now.
No question. It's as we were saying off camera here, is that whether you're for Trump or against him, or you like the agenda or you hate the agenda, if you are in logistics, purchasing, sourcing, and definitely in the compliance arena and trade law and all that, you're at the table. People are asking questions. What do I do? Where am I going? So, when I keep hearing some of our counterparts out there, they'll complain and woe is me, and I can't believe this, and now what? Oh my gosh, you're at the table. People are asking you. The question is, are you truly prepared for this or not? And that's one of the things we're going to be talking about today.
Is there a new saying, Andy, that we came that I told you about the other day? If you're not at the table, you're part of the menu. So might as well be sitting at the table.
I love that. If you're not at the table, you're part of the menu. So don't be getting eaten up here. So this is going to be good. Folks, we have a couple of people from the Schultz Trade Law firm who, one of these folks are just a dear friend. I just love her to death. She's so wonderful. And it's Mikhail herself, the one and only, Mikhail Schulz. And she has a guru of sorts that has gotten her well prepared and all that. Marina, Mekheil, I hope I said that right. And, listen, these two ladies are phenomenal. And I will say, anytime Michelle is talking, you ought to be like the old E.F. Hutton commercial. You better be listening, because there's going to be nuggets of knowledge that you can take away from this. So welcome to the show, ladies.
Thank you. Thank you so much. We love talking with you, Andy and Lalo. We just... it's just a pleasure. And right back at you, Andy. You are just one of my favorite people. It's a pleasure, always a pleasure to hear you talk. So,
I appreciate that. Listen, I'm about as smart as a bag full of hammers. So, I have to look at it and see what's going on and surround myself with things. But Lalo's the one. Keep in mind, we have a great show here. Lalo and his team really put it together. They are so phenomenal. And folks, you may hear us talk about Mara. She's in the backgrounds making us all look and sound good and all that. But the whole team, I mean, Lalo, I don't know how you do it. You get everybody organized, you keep it going, and the editing is fantastic. All kudos to you.
Well, thank you. Yeah. Well,
thank you, Lalo.
Well,
you keep us all in line and up to speed on what's happening in the world.
Okay. Well, thank you. Well, this is not the Lalo show, but I wanted to talk about two different things before we got talking about trade. First of all, I just realized Go ahead.
Oh, what is that, Lalo? That looks really, really good.
It's not coming across well.
It's not, huh?
It's I think that says Schultz.
Yeah, that's a Schultz
Trade Law.
This is my daily cup that I usually use, and it's always off camera so that I don't piss off anybody. But
now I'm like, you know what? I wish I'd get, because I have one of your water bottles at home right now. I normally bring it up here, and I'm looking for it going, oh, no, I left it at home. I had to wash it. It's like,
Oh.
And so the other thing I wanted to mention was congrats on your recent, we saw the, it's not really a press release, but a member announcement that you are the counsel for ICPA. So congrats on that. I know that's a big task.
Thank you. I'm the honorary U.S. counsel, and I'm just honored to be part of it and to be able to work with John Grayston, who's EU counsel, and with George Reed, Canadian counsel. It's funny when we get together because with all the tariff wars going on right now, we're just glad we're all friends.
yeah. Hey, you UK folks, or you Canadian folks, oh, you US, I get it. Oh, I love it. I love it. And John said he's got such a great sense of humor. He is such a great guy. So, hey, Marina, let me ask you a question. Obviously, Mikhail is the queen and of the courts over here in the Texas area there and whatnot. What is it that you do? Let me ask that.
So I started off after law school at CBP, actually. So I was working in headquarters at CBP. And then I'm from Dallas originally, so I moved back to Dallas, and Michelle scooped me up. It was perfect timing because she was just starting her firm, and it was very exciting. So I started just doing import work, import compliance, and she's been teaching me export work as well. And so I'm doing both now, and it's been really fun. And we get such interesting clients and interesting work here. So we've kind of seen it all at this point. But
that's fantastic. So when you were at Customs, that was probably under Brenda Smith's area, wasn't it?
It was. I think it was Brenda, and Alice Kipple was the headquarters executive director. I think that's what they call it. But I think I started in 2019. So this is right when Section 301 first happened. And so it was fun being there for that 2 years. We were working on exclusion, Section 301 exclusion implementation. So that was a good time to start entering into the trade world.
Mm-hmm. Well, I will say Brenda's is another favorite. She is just was a great leader at CBP and very polished. So strong women in the industry. So, hey, Lalo, how do you want to start this? Because Michelle has posted something that has been, folks. First off, take a look at LinkedIn. Take a look at the Schultz Trade Law, and that's SCHUL. Was it TZ?
Z, no T.
Z, no. Okay. Yeah. I knew there was something different. SCHULZ. Okay. Like I said, I'd screw up a 2-car parade and on 1 block route. Okay. So, take a look at LinkedIn and take a look at Schultz Trade Law. They've made a posting there that is phenomenal. All this stuff that's going on, people are complaining or they're going back and forth as far as, oh, well, now there's a threat of, 25% or 10% or 50% or 100% duties on this country, that country, whatever. And it has been a whirlwind. And the thing that I like, rather than a complaint or trying to go through, is that Michelle and her team have posted some things. Here are some recommendations of what you need to do, how to handle this stuff, not necessarily complaining politically one way or the other, but some really good suggestions on what to do with this. But Lalo, I'm going to defer to you on exactly where to start here.
Yeah, well, the reason I saw that post and I quickly thought, okay, let's try to get them on as soon as we can, because of course things change. It's so fluid right now. Everything is just like, look at the Colombia situation. I talked about that before. In the morning, Colombia had a big tariff, and then by the afternoon or the evening that same day, it was gone. And not that it could have been implemented anyway, because it was Sunday, So anyway, so things change so quickly. I know that's a very dramatic example, but still, I mean, things can change that quickly. But I saw the post and I said, okay, that's a lot of like the philosophy that we have, especially like at on the podcast and with Global Training Center, is let's figure out how to deal with the situation. Yes, it's okay. Go and complain, or go and talk to your representatives. Go and talk to, maybe someone at CBP that you might know. Not that maybe they can't do anything, but maybe your elected officials, and tell them, how you feel, why you feel this is not good, et cetera. That's still valid. Keep on doing that. But as we all know, they say the government is like an analogy with trade, right? You get these big cargo ships that are coming into dock. Try to turn that thing around. It's going to take forever. That boat is not going to turn around that quickly. Same thing with our government. It's going to take some time, unless Trump and you're his right-hand guy like Elon Musk, and you can tell him, hey, go lift a tariff or go impose a tariff. I mean, yeah, that's something different, but we're not Musk. We normally have to go through the normal channels. And so when I saw that, I said, okay, let's do that, because I keep on hearing people or watching or seeing posts, about what is going on, but not how to deal with it. So Michelle, really, it's up to you all. I mean, I saw how you are talking about, especially, I guess, Marina was part of the reason why this post ever even came out, was dealing with these tariffs through Chapter 98, on duty drawback, your free trade agreements, et cetera. Well, let's just start there. Let's go with that and see where the conversation takes us.
Yeah, sure. We are very solution focused, and I have to hand it to Marina. She has come up with several different strategies that we included in the post. And so our whole team really contributed. But there are different strategies that people should look at now that maybe they ignored before. So, you mentioned Chapter 98, for example. We have, in everyday practice, we have a lot of clients that don't use Chapter 98 simply because.
Well, tell folks what 98 is. You're talking about, I assume, U.S. goods returned, or are you talking about, there's a lot of, 98 is pretty broad in some application here.
Yeah, I'm being kind of broad. U.S. goods returned under Chapter 98 of the Harmonized Tariff Code. And you can claim duty-free treatment if you claim the proper tariff code, but if you have the correct documentation. And so a lot of companies want to use 98, but they don't know how to do the documentation, or they don't have the resources, or this is probably a new one, they don't have the staff. I'm sure you've heard that before. So now's the time. Marina and I strongly recommend, okay, maybe you didn't look at 98 before. You thought it was too hard. Nothing's too hard when you're getting hit with this kind of tariff. Marina, what do you think about that?
100% agree. And I think this is the time where compliance is usually maybe somebody that people in the C-suite don't want to talk to, but now's your time to get in, because before you were saying spend money on compliance. Now you're saying spend money on compliance so that you can potentially get some of this money back that you're paying in duties. And Chapter 98 is filled with possible duty savings, U.S. goods returns. There's also a provision in Chapter 98 for goods that are being repaired. So if you're a company that is constantly sending things out to be repaired and they're coming back in the United States, don't pay that duty twice. You can pay that duty on the repair value, not on the value of the good, which could possibly save you a lot of money. So there are all these different ways that you can save money or possibly just get something in duty free, but you need to have a compliance program in place because these things done without proper documentation and not through the proper procedure could potentially cost you more in penalties if you do it incorrectly. But if you do it correctly, you have people in place who know what they're doing. You could save a lot of money.
One of the things, too, I'd be remiss just because of my past background. If you're talking about U.S. goods that are leaving the country and coming back, some things going out for repair, but also, let's say you've got a machine or you've got equipment. If you're a photographer, there's a big deal on that is used where you're going out and coming back in is the use of an ATA carnet. It's, whatever goes out, and it goes into other countries, it would go in duty and tax free. But whatever goes in has got to come back out. But on the same token, when it comes back to the States, again, it would be duty and tax free. But you, again, is you're talking about the appropriate documentation and the appropriate procedures. So if you've got sales that are going to conferences around the world, there's things that you can do that from an export perspective, to let customs know here in the U.S. that you're going to be bringing this back. But on the same token, as you're going out there, it takes a little bit of time. It takes somebody to become proficient for you. Reach out to the experts and then look to see, what do I need to do, plan it out, and go from there. The issue of not having staff, but you're doing business internationally, I don't buy that. It'd be the same way as, you know what? I don't have the staff. If I'm going to build a house, I don't have the staff or the money to deal with an architect. I'm just going to start getting lumber out there and, pouring concrete and all that and go to town on it. What do you think is going to happen? It'll be a big mess. So the staff to do this, and Michelle, I like what you're saying. Do this on the front end. Take a look at it. Well, I'm already into it. Okay. Then you start where you're at. And you might not be able to hit everything, but you can do a plan, get things set, and then in 30 days, you might be prepared with all your departments. Here's how we're going to handle this particular type of transaction.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. You can, if you're prepared, you can save a lot of money through 98 and other means that I think previously people didn't want to spend money on. They thought, well, trade compliance is a cost center. Trade compliance is not a cost center anymore. It's your savings center. And if you are skimping on the trade compliance team, you may run into an issue. For example, we had a case recently where a company had like a tiger team assigned to the tariffs. And I've seen this in several companies. The tiger team is assigned to the tariffs. They're going, and they send us their first question. And the question makes absolutely no sense because they didn't think to include the trade people in trade. This is where, like Marina said, get in now. If you're a compliance professional, this is it.
Well, Michelle, that's one of those where, and you've heard me say this, a lot of people have, but they'll move on down the road. They're marketing, they're doing all these things. You're trying to, you've got your sales contracts and you've got commitments you're trying to live up to. And then all of a sudden, here comes issues that are going to negatively affect your supply chain, either being an export and you've got deadlines to meet, or on an import and you're trying to meet your own deadlines internally for whether it's a factory, your customers, or whatever. And so when you bring in the compliance people after the fact or later into it, then they're like the pooper scooper at the end of a parade, cleaning up that mess. All right. And it would be better to get on the front end and feed this beast and handle it appropriately and rather than clean up after it.
I would also like to say, just what you said, the compliance is a pooper scooper. It's compliance right now is also going to be, you want to be part of the planning. Are you entering a distribution agreement? Are you signing up a new supplier? Are you trying to enter a new country's market? Whatever it is, have a trade professional in that conversation. It's not just U.S. tariffs on China, Mexico, Canada. We're talking about retaliatory tariffs coming from other countries. We're talking about China allowing better access to their market to our allies and not us. That is going to affect your decisions. We're not just talking about, nothing is simple anymore. We don't have companies that purely just do import into the United States. We have companies that are doing vast export and import operations. They're doing business with several countries. So you want to have a trade professional in that conversation when you're starting an agreement with somebody, when you're entering into a new transaction and you're trying to write what you're going to do. You need to know what the trade implication at that point is, because if you come back at the end of that negotiation and you're saying to your compliance person, here's what we came up with, and they're like, great, this is going to be expensive, and you didn't have the right people in that conversation at the very beginning.
Your product may be getting caught in the middle of a trade war type scenario. So how do you navigate that? That's where these trade experts come into play.
Yes, and it's very technical. One example would be duty drawback, where we see this a lot in the oil and gas industry, where goods come into the U.S. and then they later leave. And if you're able to track those, you can get a refund. But it's not just so easy as it sounds, because you have to have an inventory plan. You have to know, are you first in, first out? Are you last in, first out? You have to know if you have fungibles, which are commercially interchangeable items. So maybe I brought in this oil, but I'm sending out that oil, but it's the exact same oil. So who cares? It's like $1. $1's $1. But these technical questions are for the trade department. It's not something you want to just take lightly.
Ultimately, the consumer, obviously, the consumer is who pays for the tariffs. So flat out, that's the reality. People think that maybe China is the one that's paying the tariffs when or Canada, U.S., whoever, the country that's exporting out. But obviously that's not true. It's the importer that's paying it, who is an American, company, or, anyway, the importer record here in the U.S. So when you do that drawback, so I've been watching this post that's been trending, and I'm laughing because people are just fighting back and forth on it and saying, well, you can claim drawback and get your money back. And they're saying, yeah, but they're not going to return that money back to the consumer and reflect it on the pricing. I guess it's really not that easy, right? It's not that easy by saying, because you're not going to get that drawback till several months, maybe a year, or even years later, right?
Drawback is, it's not an easy program to enter. And you are going to be watched by CBP when you enter into a program like this. So, and there are different ways to enter this program that might make your refunds come in faster. You could do something with unused merchandise where you can have a quicker process in them reviewing your claims. You can enter into something like that, but they require you to show them what your compliance program is in that point. And it's usually up to 6 months. Now, we've talked to drawback brokerages and our clients, and they wait a year or 2 years for a refund. That's just kind of what CBP is right now. They're putting money into enforcement. They're putting money into this political, stance, but they're not going to put a lot of money or people into, a drawback program, making sure that we're, getting our refunds, which is why it's really important for whoever's claiming that drawback to make sure that they're making their claims very easy. They're providing documentation. They're not giving CBP any reason to deny a claim or come back and ask a bunch of questions, which delays your refund.
Yeah, we saw a denied claim recently, didn't we? We recently saw a denied claim, and I think Customs just didn't think that this company had proven that the merchandise came in and went back out. They couldn't track it. And just for that reason, no refund for you.
And that client had done it for the first time. That was their first time doing it, and we were not brought in at the beginning. We were brought in after. We were pooper supers, but that's what happens.
Big shovels.
Yeah. Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, here's the other thing, though, is that all of these items, the drawback program, if you happen to use a foreign trade zone or an FTZ where you're bringing in, bulk shipments of items, and then you're doing a pick and pack and shipping a lot of that back out to other countries. You have the ability to, protect your cash flow by not even having to, spend money on it as you're sending it out. However, I will say there's different advantages to drawback over FTZs and vice versa. It just depends on what works with your trade attorneys and with your customs brokers. They have the expertise to say, yes, you can do this, or no, you can't. And usually there are things that people have these assumptions, we can just work through this and all that. And then they get shocked when it's after the fact. And what do you mean I can't do this? I've already built a marketing campaign and a sales campaign off of this and whatnot. How do you go about those kinds of things and maybe advise executive management? Wake up, smell the roses here, because you're going to go down the wrong road if you're not astute enough to ask the right questions.
Oh, yeah. You've got to report up. And if you don't have that executive management support, then you're inevitably going to have a problem. We have been doing this type of work for over 20 years, and I can attest that when there's no support from the top, you have an uphill climb. It's definitely going to be a poop scooping moment. So yeah, I think coming in after the fact, you can clean these things up, but it's more expensive. If someone writes their own will and then brings it to a wills and estates attorney and says, can you just edit this? I guarantee you it's going to cost more than if you had just let the will guy write it. And that's what this is. It costs more in the end because you have to bring in attorneys, and it's messy, takes time, and money is delayed. So doing it on the back end is not great. Top down support is critical. And I heard John Dean say once, he was the White House counsel in the Nixon administration. He said, if you can't report up, you got to report out. He had to report all the way up the chain. And that's what people are doing in compliance. If your boss is not listening, tell somebody else, because you can save money.
But come up with the top 3 things to inform above, and trust your leadership that they will be able to take that and run with it. But you need to break it down to where it's not too complex. It's just like, keep it simple. I mean, for me, again, I'm just, I've got to have it laid out. Draw me a picture, and I can go from there. So what do you think about that kind of approach? Inform up above, influence around you, and control below you.
They do not have time. They may have 2 minutes. So you got to get their attention fast, right, Marina?
Yes. And I want to caveat that to just say one thing, especially when I think what we're going to see probably is more buy-in from the executives now. They're watching the news. They're going to come to your office now and be like, okay, are we worried? Should we be doing something? And you have to, yes, explain to them concisely and quickly what needs to be done and how to save. But you need to explain to them that they need to ask the right questions. They cannot, we're going to talk about drawback. We're going to talk about Chapter 98 with executives. We're going to talk about FTZs and FTAs. But we're looking at these executive orders from President Trump, and the 10% on all goods from China, you cannot claim duty drawback on those. The steel and aluminum that just came out yesterday, you cannot claim duty drawback on that. And you cannot have mitigating factors. If you were to not pay those tariffs and CBP were to come back knocking on your door, there's no mitigating factors. You're getting the maximum penalty. So you need to, explain to them, you want to sell this to them and say, we're going to save money. But you also need to be very clear to them that we can't rush into anything so that we can save 25% on duties. We have to make sure we're doing things correctly. So companies need to kind of figure out, where is the cost coming from? Is the cost coming from the 25% tariffs on list 1, 2, and 3, 4? Or are they coming into this new 10% tariff on China? Are they coming from steel? Because that is going to change what you do to save money. And they need to be careful that they're not just, I'm starting drawback tomorrow, and I've done this claim. And then And then somebody's like, oh, you guys are doing duty drawback, but you're getting hit by this 10% tariff and it's not, you can't claim it on this.
What do you think is like, okay, I'm in the compliance, I'm looking at this. What would be the top 3 things you would recommend somebody do?
I'll give you all a freebie, okay? So that's not one of your 3. Is call the Schultz Law Firm, okay? So that's a freebie. So what are the other 3?
There you go.
That way you don't burn a wish. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, I think Andy's point is very well taken. You know, a lot of people are having trouble now and they're struggling with all this change. And the only way we're going to make this good is if we have hope and we drive forward. And so I think it's really important for trade compliance folks to not give up at this time. Take this as your opportunity and take the lead, because those tariff codes, maybe you didn't classify all the past 5 years. Maybe they're wrong. And maybe if you had a different one, you wouldn't know those duties. And similarly, you might have thought drawback was too hard. Maybe it's not too hard now. And last but not least, Chapter 98, same thing. Record keeping. Maybe you had bad record keeping in the past. Start today. I would take a positive approach to this whole thing and try to make a difference at your company.
I don't want to echo too much or give the same ones, but yes, that first one is you need to do an assessment of, are you importing? Are you exporting? Have you looked at your classifications, at your valuation, at your country of origin? If you are not somebody who's putting a lot of money in compliance, now is your time. Start looking at the errors that you're making, you've made. Because if you want to save money, you can't save money. You can't start doing Chapter 98 drawback FTAs and have bad classifications or claim country of origin wrong. So that's really your first step, is just kind of have somebody get in there, do an audit, do an assessment. Second thing, figure out what is actually costing you a lot of money right now and what will cost you a lot of money right now. We're not going to see these executive orders stop anytime soon. These tariffs to Mexico and Canada are suspended for now, but they might be implemented. So kind of figure out where your cost is going to happen, and that's where you should focus on any of these duty savings. I guess the last thing is maybe just be nimble. Don't get yourself stuck is what I'm saying. And this is not necessarily maybe for a compliance person, but for whoever they're speaking to, who is moving manufacturing or bringing in a new supplier. Make sure you're not getting yourself stuck. We're 2 months, a month into it. You're going to see a lot of changes in the next 4 years. We saw what happened with Colombia at the beginning of the presidency. We don't know what's going to happen. We don't know if tariffs are going to hit other products from other countries. So you need to be nimble. You need to be ready to react. And don't get yourself stuck in a situation where you now have incurred other costs.
Thank you. Yeah. And just in the interest of time, I understand. Thank you very much, for everybody listening, like Andy said. And Marina, it was a pleasure meeting you. I don't know if I've ever met you in person. I don't think I have, but
I've met both of you guys at ICPA, actually.
We did, right? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. I know Michelle is infamous by taking her whole crew and overwhelmed with so many people. But that's awesome that you do that, Michelle, that you provide professional development for your team. And that's awesome. So,
Thank you.
Nice having you both on our show. And speaking of ICPA, hopefully we'll see you all in Orlando, whoever might be there. So
yeah.
So that's in March 9 through the 12th, I believe. So
I'll be there with our senior trade advisor, Kelly McCorkle, and I'm still hounding Marina. I think she should go with me just for fun.
Hey, why not? Disney's always fun. So anyway.
Well, ladies, have a great day. To our listeners, thank you so much again, and y'all have a great day.
Thank you, guys.